So in this video, we are going to be looking at 5 randomly selected data analyst portfolios. The goal? To be able to properly figure out what works, what doesn't, and what you have to do to make sure that you stand out with a data analyst portfolio. So whether you are building a portfolio or you are curious about what exactly a portfolio is about as a data analyst, stick around because I've got you extra tips to make sure that your portfolio is not just good, but makes impossible to ignore. For the purpose of bringing structure to this particular video, we're going to be grouping it into 2 parts. What makes a portfolio good and what makes it impossible to ignore, right? What makes a portfolio good is in 3 parts. It first has a catchy title. It has a shortened or say a summarized context to what the project is about, and then a full-on documentation about the processes that was taken to be able to complete that process. These 3 things makes a portfolio good enough. But to be able to make a portfolio impossible to ignore, then you have to first make sure that it is good enough with these 3 examples, in addition to these 5 things, which are about your project selection. How impactful is the project that you have selected to work on? Is it solving real business problems, or is it just any regular data set that can be found on Kaggle? A good portfolio tells a story, not just writing that here's a SQL query that I wrote. You should be able to communicate the points that the data told about. The third part has to do with technical depth. Your project, if you're talking about SQL for instance, should show proof that you know how to use SQL. It's not just about writing documentation that I use SQL for so and so and so, but also have that code available for anyone to follow through. And be assured that you are equipped in the skill set that you claim to have in this particular portfolio. The third would have to do with the presentation. You could have these 3, as I already mentioned, good enough in place, but if your presentation is very poor, I'm sorry, but you are not going to be remembered for your portfolio. By presentation, what I mean is that portfolio should be very clean, organized, and easy to navigate. Apart from that, whatever that you're presenting should speak very highly of you. So your presentation, the charts, the order list, it should match your technical depth, the storytelling, and the problem that you are choosing to solve with the data analysis. The last and final step is that the project should have that uniqueness and extra edge. Earlier when I mentioned about how people usually take regular data sets online from Kaggle like Titanic and then do a project about it. And it's not like it's a bad thing, but to be able to add something unique, an extra touch, that one thing that gives you that edge over other people who are just analyzing data just because it's Titanic data sets. So let's just jump right into the video and I'll show you these 5 portfolios and how exactly it looks like and what my thoughts are on it. So the very first portfolio that we are going to be looking at is from Favor Adelani, and this is how I was sent a portfolio. So I'll quickly click on my portfolio to open that up. And right off the bat, I really like the presentation of the portfolio. It gives me a welcome to the interface. I can see who exactly I'm going to be working with as a hiring manager or as a client. And has his Favor's face, which is pretty cool and inviting on the portfolio. And from here, I can see that Favor is a data analyst, which is also some good insights for me. If I want to reach out to him for some work, I can just figure it out here. And I also have a description about who exactly Favor is. So from here, I can tell that he has some 3 years experience in the data space as a business intelligence analyst, right? And he has some skills in data analytics as well, which is pretty interesting. Apart from that too, there are bits and pieces of ETL procedures and data modeling, which is also very interesting as well. So I like this part about Favor's portfolio. I'm not just seeing his project that he has worked on, I'm also getting to know who exactly I'll be working with once he meets my expectations, whether in the portfolio or the interview that I'll be coming off, right? So I like that. I actually like that. So Move on to the next, and then here I see his background in terms of education and experience, work experience. And already, as I said earlier on, I am loving this portfolio because I get to know who exactly I'm going to be working with even before I get to see his project, which for me, once again, is pretty cool, right? And you don't necessarily have to scroll through the entire page as I am doing right now. You can just click on any of the options here and take you to wherever I'm looking at right now, right? But I'm choosing to go scrolling, right? So I love this. So work experience, his BSc, and then the education for the BSc, and also some work experience as well, which is quite heavy if you ask me. So I like that. And then here I can see a couple of his projects, and there are just 3. Okay, so before I get into the project, I want to see what else he has down there since this scroll bar hasn't reached the end yet. Okay, but right off the bat, when it comes to the my project parts here, I see 3 projects, which is okay. Right, it's fine. And there's a nice quote as well about data, and already you're catching me, so that's a good thing about the portfolio, right? Okay, so there's also a part about more of my work that also shows extra projects as well. But from what I've already seen in the beginning, I'm thinking that the first 3 that I saw, which is this part, right? This particular part are supposed to be one of your top or your best projects favor. So these are probably your best project. They are showing the remaining projects that you already worked on, which I think is also fine as well, right? The portfolio should just work for you and it's working for me as well. So I see some 4 extra projects apart from the previous 3 that she shared, right? And then let's keep scrolling and see. Okay, there are more. So there's other 4 more again. So you have a total of 4 plus 4 plus 3. So that's about 11 projects in your portfolio. Now there's usually a problem, or I will not say a problem, but more about conversation about how many projects is too much for your portfolio. And for me, I would say that you should only put in the projects that shine your best work, right? So if you have to put 10 in there, fine, but it should be your best work. You shouldn't just be putting, you see, something will look like trash if it doesn't bring value. But if you have about 20 valuable projects out there, trust me, it is way worth it, right? Than putting 20 bad projects out there. The purpose is not just to fill your portfolio, but then to provide some sense of value in it. And right now from Favor's portfolio, I see 11, right? 4 plus 4 plus 3. So that's pretty cool. In addition to that, there are also images, okay, about your teaching experience as well. It would have been great to know what exactly you were teaching at, but okay, we have that. And then this is also your contacts as well, so that we can reach out to you and do some collaborations, email, LinkedIn, and your phone number, which once again I think is pretty cool, right? So my first impression about the portfolio is that it's very clean. It's easy to navigate with the menu as well. So I like that part about the portfolio, right? But that is not all. We have to look into the actual project and then see if it's also meeting ideal employers or clients' needs as well, right? Let's quickly jump into that. So I'm scrolling all the way up to the first 3 projects that I saw. And just a moment. I wanted to make sure that I'm not seeing duplicates of the projects, right? So it seems that there are 11 unique projects, right? So let's look at the first one, the Call Touch Media Power BI project. Now, first of all, I don't know what Call Touch Media is. So I'm clicking on this because we are working on this video, so I want to just know what you've put in there. But for your project, the title should be about what you're working on, right? It's a Power BI project, but you can always find out after you click on the title, right? So clearly it's taking up a lot of space. What you can also do is just give like a segmentation where you show maybe all your Power BI projects, maybe all other SQL projects. But putting Power BI projects in the title doesn't really do a lot of good, right? So there's that part of it that I think can work on. And the title should be, what's this Call Touch Media exactly? I don't know that, so what is the context? The context should be in the title to make me want to click on the video, right? So let's click on the video, and I see that you hosted a portfolio on Medium, which is pretty cool because I love Medium, and I think it's a very easy way to host your portfolios and put out documentation as well, right? So I like that. And the title is Core Touch Media Power BI Store. Once again, title has to be refined properly so that it can make sense to what looking at it, so I can know what I'm going to expect once I get into the project or I click on the link. I think I keep repeating that. So there's an image about, it looks like inventory in a store, okay, and this is some context to the project, right? So making data-driven research into data collected by an online retail store that sells healthcare products. After making a detail-oriented look into data collected from sales departments, here is a detailed analytical review and documentation. Okay, so this is more about documentation about the project, right? Okay, so I love the fact that she puts in some documentation or some context into the project, but once again, the title didn't exactly reflect what you were doing. So work on the title, make it more descriptive, right? And it jumps straight into the documentation, which I don't think is bad, but I would have advised in addition that you give like a summary, okay, into what exactly it is. And I'm not sure if this is part of the documentation or there's a summary, so I'm a little thrown off, and I feel like I have to read the entire thing here to be able to understand, right? Which is also a lot, right? Documentation for people who want to really investigate. If you really know the tool, it's able to help people identify or gauge your technical depth in the tool that I use for the project, right? But if I'm a hiring manager with no particular in-depth technical knowledge about the role, I might want to just get a context than reading documentation time by time, right? So documentation is very important, but give a summarized context that is attractive enough to catch a person and want to look at the documentation as well, right? So documentation is good, I love that, but let's add a summary. Okay, so this is looking really good. And the questions that she answered from a data set, I think it also helps the storytelling as well in your presentation or your portfolio, right? Now, the thing about projects in portfolio that I've realized is that people tend to focus more on answering questions than telling stories, right? So what you see here is that, like what I'm seeing in Favor's portfolio, right, is that he's answering questions about, say, the last question, which countries sold the least items, right? And then you see a chart showing like maybe a bar or a pie chart showing the countries and that sold the least item, which is okay, right? But in a portfolio, you should be telling a story, which I also believe that Favor captured effectively here. I'll probably have to read through. Let me take my time and read through this quickly so I can give a more nuanced response to this particular portfolio, right? Okay, so okay, so it's also a recommendation. All right, so I think I like this particular portfolio, right? I genuinely think I like it, but I would have preferred if there was a clearer storyline, so it gives like some sense of context rather than answering the questions, the 12 questions that were inside. Okay, so let's say that you are supposed to answer a question of what are the top three sales channels, what are the top three countries, and what are the top three salespersons, for instance, right? It's easy to just go ahead and go and do a chart to explain and show who these top threes are, whether in the country, the items, or in the people. I have to tell a story around it, right? So it's one thing to just show charts about these things. One thing to say that the top three people that sold the top three people are the ones that sold this particular product, and there are many coming from country C. You get it? That is linking these questions to make sense and business impact for the company. I hope you got that correlation. You can play this part back if you want to, but the whole point is that the projects aren't supposed to be answering questions. They are supposed to be a project should always go beyond answering questions, right? It should also be able to connect the questions to give a clearer story about about what's happening in the business and what possible recommendations could come out of that. All right. So let's just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, I observed something about your charts as we were going through. And one thing about your portfolio, okay, that even though you have your documentation and you have other things in place, it's very important that your charts are also representative of where exactly you are trying to communicate, okay? And you have some parts right in the portfolio, but what I was not happy with had to do with the chart and the presentation, right? And I'll explain as let me just zoom in here to explain. So you see here in this particular chart, right, that the chart is not very clean. Am I clean? I'm not referring to the colors. I think the colors are beautiful. I think the dashboard is amazing, but it is not cleaned up properly to be able to communicate clearly to whoever is looking at the dashboard, right? And the main reason for that has to do with the axis names, right? In my opinion, I believe that if you had removed for this particular chart, let me zoom in further to demonstrate. For this particular chart, right, if you had removed this particular axis name, the product from here, in terms of revenue from here, it would have made a huge difference in your presentation, right? As well as this particular x-axis figures. The reason for me asking that you remove this is because you already have the data labels in the chart. So showing that here, that's little to no good for the chart. So clean up around these things can greatly help in making sure your portfolio is very clean. Your project in your portfolio is very clean and well received by either a client or an employer, right? In addition, it's the same thing that runs across most of the charts that I saw. So look at this for instance, right? Let me zoom in again, and you see that we have this here, and then this here, and this here. All of these ones can be removed easily, and you still have the context of the particular story you're trying to tell from this chart still refined, okay? So, and I see this happening all around, right? Now, because of these access titles and then the unnecessary x-axis still showing, it tends to make the chart look very cluttered, which takes away from all the hard work that you have put in the portfolio, right? So you have to check on that and clean that up and give some context to the particular project, and then you are well on your way to make your portfolio not just good, but also impossible to ignore, right? All right. So in light of this, let's look at the other project that I saw. So similar to this, right? I'm seeing all of this. So this particular title, okay, as compared to core touch media, this particular title is more self-explanatory, right? So I know that when I click on this, I'm going to find out about employees' data that has been analyzed for Splendor investment. That is pretty much straight to the point, okay, and not as vague as core touch media, okay. So please keep that in mind and see how you can refine that to make it better, right? Now, this is Medium. I love Medium. So let's quickly go through the projects that you have. Okay, so here is some context, right? So the project that is in this portfolio, and Splendor is the campaign that is data to tell stories about its workforce. So you use SQL and Power BI to analyze data and visualize 1,000 employees. Okay, it is more about data about Splendor's employees, right? Okay. And I started putting some charts from Power BI, which is really good. Okay. Okay, so similar to what I said earlier on, right? I think this particular project I'm looking at, okay, unlike the first one, has the summary, it has a clear title, it also has a documentation, okay. But once again, you see here that when it comes to the chart, right, we have so much taken away from the chart that could have otherwise been avoided, right? So something like the axis titles here are not needed. It makes the charts clustered. And then you also have data labels on the chart. So you don't need this particular y-axis here. It's not serving a particular purpose. It also has to be taken away, right? And you can try that and see that if you remove the x-axis and compare to this particular chart, you see that what you have removed is much clearer, okay, and neater than all of these labels and axes, making it clustered, right? So I think you've done a really good job here. But your chart in particular portfolio has to speak for itself and be very clear, right? And I also love the fact that you have your the dashboard interactive here. So it's not just about screenshots to your work that you have done, but it's also a whole Power BI dashboard that I can also go into to click on certain filters and then figure out what exactly is going on and then test it out, right? Okay, so here I'll need a Power BI account for me to be able to access it. Now it's not wrong for me to get a Power BI account and sign in, but I also know that you can have this available to anyone without having them to sign in, right? And sometimes one mistake I see other people do is that they host their Power BI projects on their company's the organization platform. So if an external person is going to look at it, they first have to work in the company, right? So you also have to figure out ways to have your interactive dashboards as accessible as possible, right? So that's have a limitation like signing in manually or getting to have the company email or domain first, right? Remember, the whole goal is to have a hiring manager or a client easily see your portfolio and then get on with it. They don't want to now go stressed looking for portfolio, Power BI link up and down. That is too much to execute somebody who just wants to see your work, right? So I'll not bother myself to look at this, but this has to be looked into and worked on, right? And I don't go into this because the other portfolio I have to look at, but if you are someone who tends to do this mistake, please refine it before it's too late for you, right? So I like that you have the dashboard here. It really helps to not only see screenshots but actually work with what you said you have done. Okay, so I love this. And so I said about the charts, the charts, the axis titles and the axes, they have to be removed to make things easier, right? So overall, let me look at your final project that you had in the third one so that I can make a well-rounded decision, right? So this is about Mary Skills Sales Data Analysis project. Okay, I'm not sure of what the details are. Are you doing sales analysis for revenue growth, or what exactly are you using the sales analysis for, right? Once again, to have some kind of context to it. Okay, so I like this because once again it is doing what I said you should have done in the first project, which is the core touch, right? It talks about the introduction, so it gives you clear context about what exactly was done in this particular portfolio, in this particular project. And I love this particular, I think this is my favorite because it has the introduction clearly stated, right? So this is very good. It's also a description, right? And you also describe the data sets, which is also very helpful with documentation as well. I think I'm now seeing this like the first one I've seen amongst all the other two projects I've looked at so far. What the task was, the analysis. Once again, I think we are doing a very great job from the beginning, but when it gets here, the visualization is good. The visualization is good, but it looks clumsy, right? Not because you didn't arrange the things well, but because of because of how the data, just because of how the access titles and the data labels are not aligning with the whole chart, right? So you probably have to look into that and refine that to make it better, right? They also have a part for insights. Okay, what the insights are. In the viral sales trend. Okay. So as I said earlier on, right, we have to do our best from refraining from just answering questions. Favor did a very good job here by not only answering the questions, but based on the questions that he answered, he was able to give business impactful advice, right? To be able to help anybody that wants to use this particular data set for their business, right? So I like this. I like that the recommendations are also data driven, right, according to the numbers. And this, for me, from the documentation to the title of this particular, I didn't like the title of this one, but the previous one. But documentation here and then the context, like the summarized context, is a really good job, right? So I love this particular portfolio. I really like this. So if I'm to rate it, from 0 being the worst to 10 being the best, I'll give this portfolio a 6 point. I'll give it a 6 because I think it can further improved, particularly with the charts, right? The reason for this is because I can't overstate how important your presentation must be to be able to make sure that you are meeting the standard, right? So I'll give you a 6, right? Once you're able to meet the so I'm going to give you a 6 because not all your projects are following the same structure, right? Because I'll see one project have like two out of 3 requirements, and another one have one out of 3, another one having 2 out of 3 again, right? So make sure their projects are following a properly laid out structure, right? So thank you very much, Favor, for sharing this particular portfolio. Appreciate it. So let's get into the next person's portfolio we have here. The next one we have here is from Samuel. This is from Samuel Adanu. It's particular portfolio from Samuel Adanu, and he hosted his portfolio on Marvin Analytics. Now, if you want to know how to use Marvin Analytics for your portfolio hosting, and check out the video that I'll be sharing on my screen right now to figure out how to use it. It's very simple and accessible to everybody, and yes, it is free as well. So right off the bat from Samuel's portfolio on Marv Analytics, I like what I am seeing. I can tell that's data analyst and he works at the JRA. And okay, so then there are some projects of his here. Let me see if I can roughly count how many projects are here. It seems there are 6 projects here, which is also pretty cool, right? But as I mentioned earlier on, right, a project should be more about quality than quantity, okay? Now, if the quantity is equal to quality, then why not, right? So do your best, right? And then from Samuel's part, I can also get some context about who exactly he is. And he is compliance officer who transitioned into data. I think that's a very strong selling point, and they have so many transferable skills that I can get into data space with. So kudos to you, Samuel. And okay, so I like this, like a power statement, right? And here I can also see some of his credentials that he has able to gather from our analytics, which I think is which is cool. Some of them are data required, so that's really good. And I can also see his work experience and his education, right? And also additional links as well. So you see, one thing that people underestimate about portfolios, I think I already said this earlier, but to reiterate again, people underestimate their portfolios and think that you just have to put your projects there and you're done. But it's about your project and also context about who you are. So where have you worked? Where did you school? Who exactly are you? Like, sell yourself to me so I can buy you, right? Whether it's through employment or through a client work, right? I have to be able to want to work with you. And your portfolio is there to do that for you. As I like to say, that your portfolio is a business card, right? So it has to be the best. It has to sell who you are as a person, right? So let's quickly jump onto Samuel's project. The first one is Spotify Wrapped, key summary of key insights into music streaming history. Okay, so I like this because I get what I'm going to look at, right? And it has given a summary of what exactly Spotify's streaming history looks like, right? So I'll click on that and quickly get myself into the project, right? So here someone has put in his a screenshot of the dashboard that he built in Power BI, right, for the Spotify Wrapped project. Okay, and then there is a video. Okay, I like this. I hardly see people integrate videos into their portfolios, so this is really cool. Let's see what the video is saying. Okay, so okay, so what I'm hearing is music, a lot of music, right? I don't know if it is music throughout or he speaks. Okay. Okay. So although there is some all right. So although there is there is interactive or there has been an embedded video into the portfolio, I was expecting that she would speak about what exactly you worked on and then how you're clicking through these things instead of having background music play whilst you click through, because it's equal to losing me without giving me context, right? About, like giving sort of a presentation about whatever that you did here. That's what I was expecting, but I didn't see that here. So I'll take it as this particular portfolio is equal to a snapshot. Basically, it's just a little movement because I still don't get that context, right? Unless I want to sit down through a video with music in the background, just for somebody click through various pages or filters in the Power BI dashboard, right? So I think that can be fixed so that it can show not only your technical depth about the particular project, but also is able to give that sense of it's able to show that you are good at communication, right? Which I think is going to be pretty good. So you might want to swap this video with like a presentation, like where you talk through the project that was worked on, right? But so far, I like this, right? Because apart from you giving me a clear title, also giving me an about the project, right? It's an introduction, so it's more about context, right? Which I've talking about, and I like that a lot. And then we have challenges, right? Okay, so there are challenges, and then there's also documentation on how exactly what about particular things to do. Okay, how you prepare the data. Okay, 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 okay. There's also additional images as well, right? So I like this particular portfolio, right? I like this portfolio a lot, but I would have preferred if the video that was embedded was you giving a walkthrough than just the background music, right? I think this is great. I think this is actually pretty great and standard, right? When it comes to the chart, from what I can see here, unlike the previous, right, where I was talking about how it looked a little cluttered because of the axis titles and then some of the axis figures, this one looks pretty clean, right? What I've suggested to add up is to remove this particular ones as here because you already have data labels on the chart, right? That would have made a great catch, but I like the portfolio. This particular project, I have an issue with it slightly because I often see a lot of projects with Spotify Wrapped, right? So what I'll ask you is, what makes this particular project different? I'm not saying don't use Spotify Wrapped data or the like. What I'm saying is you can use Titanic's data set, right? But you have to make sure that it is unique as possible, right? So yeah, I think I like this particular project. Let's look at the other projects available. So this is a dashboard of MTA's system, ridership and traffic estimates to illustrate post. This particular thing can be shortened. I think it can be shortened, right? a little too long to grasp at the same time. Remember, you're working with a hiring manager or a client, you don't have time to read, you just only have time to glimpse at something that's going to catch their eye, right? So this was analysis of traffic. That's how I read, right? So I'll just quickly skim through this particular video. Let me see this thumbnail. This is a pretty cool thumbnail. Yeah. So I have an issue. It would have to do with your choice of charts, right? Particularly in this one. I think the dashboard is really, really great. I think it's clean. But you see, there's a thing about charts, right? That if you use it wrongly, it's going to bite you in the back very painfully. And I think this particular chart could have represented in a different way instead of stacking them up multiple times with different colors, right? You could have done differently, but let's go through the portfolio itself and see what I have available. So here as well, I think what can be changed is the title, right? It should be clear, straight to the point, Obviously, the dashboard, so don't keep that in the title, for instance, right? Remember, clarity over complexity in your portfolio. Okay. Then how about the project? So there's a description, and then there's dataset description as well, which I like. Okay. So additional images as well, right? So I think portfolio is great as well, but I'll speak more about the just a moment, the component assembly unit wide query. Okay, so I think this is great, right? But I have a few reservations, okay, about the data. It is probably because I haven't taken my time to go through this one by one, because this is my first time looking at all of these portfolios, since I just randomly selected them, right? But I think that one of the problems in data analytics right today is a lack of clear communication, because we tend to speak in very technical terms, right? So this is great, but remember, you may not be speaking to a data person, right? So how can they communicate in clear, normal human language that they can understand, in terms of, well, things like your data set description cannot be changed, right? But when it comes to your conclusion observation, it can be toned down to layman language so that everybody can understand you. That's basically what I'm trying to say here, right? So I think I like this portfolio as well, but the title definitely can be improved, right? The title definitely can be improved. Okay, so let's continue to the next, and then let me just randomly choose a portfolio, right? So I'll choose this one, and we have trending analysis dashboard, evaluating each vendor's performance in the market. As I said, right, the title can be better. Okay, we know it's a dashboard, so don't put dashboard here, right? I just start by saying evaluating vendor's performance in so and so market, right? That is clear, straight to the point, and feels more attractive, right? Remember, clarity over complexity, right? Okay, so this is the it's the WhatsApp, right? Okay, tab as well. I'm not sure if this is embedded media or this Excel. I can't tell. Okay, it's an Excel file. Oh, okay. Because I saw some of the items. So I have to zoom. Oh, okay. Okay, I was wondering, like, about Marvel Analytics, you're able to embed different project files in here without stressing, right? Okay, so it's a WhatsApp market dashboard. Okay. And then about the project is shown here. Okay, about the project, and then details, right? So there's a disclaimer as well. Okay. What I would add, right, is that if you are given a description, okay, about what exactly you did on the project, it would be great to also add like a story. Well, I think in the previous one I just saw, you had a clear storyline to it, right? But for this, you just spoke about a description to the dashboards or the KPIs are, but like, what's the story? What is the goal behind this? Let me see. Do we have a goal here? So, what is the goal, right? What is the conclusion? I don't see a conclusion here. I don't see a goal here, right? I trace again that for a portfolio, keep three things in mind. The title should be very clear. Should have a very concise and straight to the point summary about the project, and then provide documentation about how document about the project. Okay, documentation will include anywhere from how you found the data to how you clean the data to giving conclusion and or recommendations, all while telling a very concise and clear story. People, this is very important, right? So Samuel, for this particular portfolio, if I was to rank it from 0 to 10, I would give it a 5.5, right? And the reason for that is because I think that the portfolio can be put in a much better way, okay, given the nature of how things are put together, right? I think that you checked most of the boxes, but similar to the previous one I just spoke about, it doesn't follow a similar structure across all portfolios. Because the first that I saw had a definite structure, but the third one didn't even have conclusion or a goal to the project, right? So I rank this a 5.5 out of 10. If you're able to improve the clarity and be able to add the embedded video that actually involves you speaking about the project, it could also increase your chances, right, and landing that data role or securing that do the data client, for instance. Okay, so thank you, Samuel, for submitting your portfolio as well. And let's move on to the next portfolio I have here, and that would be from Daniel, the analyst. Now, right off the bat, I think I like what this particular title, Daniel the Analyst. It's catchy. I may never forget that, so that is pretty cool. But let's see what Daniel has in the following as well. So this is the face of Daniel, but it takes up a lot of space on the website, which I think is a waste, because we could have worked with something similar or better than that of Favor's own in the beginning, right? So you still had some context about him written down and also his image on the side. But this particular one takes a lot of space on the screen, and that's not really ideal, right? So you can work on that and then situate it in a much better place, right? That would potentially help. And we have Power BI project. Okay, this is a data analyst with experience in MX Excel, pivot table, and Power BI. Okay, so click on this to see. And these are your Power BI projects. Okay, what else do we have again? So these are all your Power BI projects. There's also a smaller part here where you can view your Excel projects. I'm only wondering why I didn't make it as bold as view your Power BI projects, right? That's very much bigger, but then the Excel part is like in a corner or much smaller. Is there a reason for that, or I think you have to work around that? You can just have that side by side and do the same thing, or what's the reason? Let's figure it out and work around it. Okay, so we have restaurant ratings as a project name, and then the tool uses Microsoft Power BI. Okay, I'll come through this later. How many projects are here? So I counted 12 projects, right, which is pretty cool. It's fine. Okay, as I said earlier on, right, it's about the quality over the quantity. Okay, so let's continue. It also have parts where you can reach out to Daniel if you want to on a social media, like GitHub, Instagram, Twitter. That's pretty cool, right? And my first impression about this is the image. I think it takes too much space here, right, and can be worked on. And also to the project types, right? Clearly you have two project types, so why is Power BI much bigger than the Excel? Excel could be easily overlooked because, well, I'm in a hurry, for instance, right? But for Power BI projects, it's so bold that I'm not letting it go. Okay, So let's look at the Power BI and see what Daniel has put together. Okay. So view project and okay. So what happens here is that once I click on view project on her portfolio, it takes me to her LinkedIn, right? Where there's a video of her. Where there's a video of her. Okay, this is a video, right? So let's see what the video says.
And we're giving some recommended analysis to work with.
Okay.
What can we learn from the highest rated restaurant? Do consumer preferences have an effect on ratings?
Okay, so I like this, right? I like this because particular project's video is not only showing you what exactly was done by clicking on particular filters and the like, but it's also showing you you can hear the person speak to the project, which adds some sense of weight to the work that has been put into the project, right? Oftentimes, what people do just go and take screenshots of their friends when coming put in their portfolios. But the fact that Danielle went the extra mile to actually make a video talking through the project shows the amount of effort that was put into the video, right? So I like this initiative. What I don't like about this is the fact that it's put the link on her portfolio takes me away from the portfolio, right? And brings me to her LinkedIn profile, which is something I'm okay with. And I prefer if I could just play the particular video in the project space, right? That way it's easier for me to give any feedback or take some notes and then make one or two decisions, right, as a client or hiring manager. So that's one thing that I'll add about this particular video. But I like this video idea. I think it's excellent. I think it is beautiful, right? I think I really like this. But let's find out. Is it the same for all her projects or just this one project that had to see the light of a different website? Okay, so let's just randomly. Let's look at this project, right? Okay. Alright, so it leads me back to LinkedIn, and I'm suspecting that all her links in her project leads back to LinkedIn, which is a bad thing, but it will be more user friendly if you're able to play that particular video in the portfolio space, right? Record is also, let's play this and see. Right, so she's also speaking to it, and this particular speaking on your project is very effective if you ask me, because it increases your chances. It shows that you are carrying the evidence, you have the receipts, like you are the guy for the job, so it's really, really good. I like this, right? I like this, but once again, find a way to host the videos on the portfolio website, okay? I think I like, and then also to how are you working around this, right? Because you see, a portfolio is not just about hosting your projects, okay? It's also about making sure that it's easy to navigate, right? I don't want to go and try and buy food from both food and I end up being stressed about ads and stuff. No, I have a target, so I have to be able to meet it. But the same way, anyone takes a portfolio has a target, right, to see what you're about. So go straight to the point, make things clear for them to go to or get away from. Okay. So, and this picture to do something about it. It'll be more intuitive to have an introduction about yourself on the portfolio as well. It's adds that sense of human touch and could make all the difference that you need in landing that next job or working with our next client as a data analyst, right? So thank you very much, Daniel, as well, for sharing your portfolio with us today. The fourth portfolio that I'll be looking at is from Meshach. It's from Meshach Abaidu. Forgive me if I mentioned the name wrongly. And right off the bat, I really like the portfolio. The reason for that is because of how clean it looks. Okay. Do I have just laptop sales? Let me look at all the portfolios, all the projects. Right. So I think what I saw earlier on, when I was opening the links down for this video. And I liked this particular portfolio site because it's very, very clean. The portfolio, the items are arranged really nicely, and it seems very easy to navigate as well, right? At the bottom, there's a part of your experience which gives me an idea where you're coming from and where you want to go to. So that's also pretty cool. And education as well. So yes, kudos to you, Meshach, for that part. I also see your skills that have been stated here, right? So you have skills stated as all of these interesting ones, okay. And also it's also an about section about you, which is pretty cool as well. So let's randomly go through any of these portfolios. I keep saying portfolios. Let's any one of. So let's quickly go through any one of these projects and see what we can work with. So let's start with coffee order data sets, right? Now here, what I see is a picture about coffee, okay, and then the project is on GitHub, right? And there are links to it. And then the skill I used here was Excel, visualization, data warehouse, and analysis. Okay. Now, similar to Danielle's own, this particular one also takes me away from the platform, which, in my opinion, is not very intuitive again for somebody who just wants quick and ready to go like analysis to make, right? Another thing too is that particular project was hosted on GitHub, and GitHub is not exactly a user-friendly platform for people who want to see your portfolios unless they are really, really skilled in the coding space. So you might want to keep that in mind when you're looking for somewhere to host your portfolio, right? Okay, so here, I presume that this is some context, right, to the portfolio. I keep saying portfolio, to the project, right, which I think is very short and it doesn't do a lot of justice. So let's see. I'm looking at the readme, right? So this is pretty much not it. Okay, I don't think it is it at all. And you also have a PowerPoint as well. Okay, and there's an Excel file. Hey, Meshach, assembling. Sometimes it means you mean view raw, not viewing a raw. So here I'm trying to see the data and I have to view the raw file. But what happens is once I click on the view raw file, automatically it's going to download for me, which I don't want, right? I don't want people downloading unknown items onto my device because I don't know if it's a virus or not, right? So you might want to keep that in mind and figure out how I can make these items publicly accessible to anybody without having them to do any downloads or user unfriendly clicks, right? So kindly keep that in mind as well. Let's scroll up and look at this particular project, Python tools, right? So here, similar to the first three that we've spoken about, you should make sure that it has a clear title. Particular title is not really clear, right? What is Python tools? What is patches? What are you trying to say? Let the title contain that, okay? And the description is very short, right? It looks more like a documentation, like explaining what you did than giving me context about what is in there, right? So let's look at the GitHub again, which I recommend that if somebody is not good with GitHub, they'll be very confused to like see that one project that you say you have available in your portfolio, right? I don't think this particular it doesn't do justice at all. So let's look at the code that was written for this particular project, right? And what I'm looking forward to seeing is that there's some sorts of comments in the code to be able to help anybody who's trying to follow get a grip of it, right? Unless you have some observations about that, okay? So that's just by the way as well. And so looking at Meshach's portfolio, if I were to rank it, I would give it I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. No, I'll give it a 6.3 out of 10. The reason for that is because it lacks detailed documentation, and then the context, summarized context of the portfolio has been mixed up with a an a shorter way of doing documentation. I don't think it's the right thing to do, right? So I'll give you a 6.3 out of 10 for this particular portfolio. I think it's great when it comes to the interface and navigation, but you could do more justice to give more clarity about what the project is and what problems it is solving business wise. Okay. So that's that for Meshach as well. Thank you very much, Meshach, for sharing your portfolio with us today as well. So the very final portfolio on our list has to do with Ofenche Molale. Apologies if I didn't mention your name properly. And this portfolio was sent to me via a GitHub link, right? So we're working with that. And the title of this is Data Analyst Portfolio, right? And once again, I like to iterate, just like in the case of Meshach, right? If your portfolio is in GitHub, you should make sure that the people getting it in the GitHub understand what GitHub is. If not, you are equal to hurting your chances in landing in a role as a data analyst. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and then let's see the data analyst portfolio that was put together by Ofenche Molale. Alright, so the last and final portfolio that I'm going to be looking at is from Ofenche Molale, as I said earlier on. I had to switch tabs so that I can focus on it since it's the last one to be looked at here, right? And you can see the title of the portfolio is Online Retail Portfolio, but there's a discrepancy because this here doesn't match the name up here. I can't tell if that's intentional, but it's what I'm getting, and I think if it's not supposed to be intentional, the two names should match for that consistency to run through. Okay, and at the bottom here, what I like is that there's a context to the portfolio, right? That this is an analysis of the online retail business, which the aim was to uncover insights on how to improve revenue, customer retention, and operational efficiency. Specifically, the analysis will focus on so and so. Okay, so I like that. It gives you context about the portfolio, right? And so let's look at what it's contained in this particular report to make sense of it all, right? So the first part that I have here has to do with the problem statement in a PDF form. So I'm expecting that this will give some sense of documentation, right, about how exactly the person went around their processes to solve the particular problem or the statement that was in the previous one that we saw, right? Okay, so this is good, right? So then I have problem statement. I think that this problem statement should have been in the README file that we saw earlier, right? Instead of giving that. I think it's the same thing, actually. I remember seeing this last line specifically. Yeah, I think it's the same thing here. So, okay, that's fine. Then you have KPI requirement. This is a detailed run through of how exactly the person, which is Ofenche Molale, went through to be able to look at and answer the problems and meet the KPIs, right? Okay, so I like this for each KPI stated there's an objective and then the steps that we're taking to reach. I also have screenshots. Okay, it had Tableau visualization as well. Right, I'm impressed. You have data source for your project, which is good. I think this is pretty well thought of and put together, so I like this. I like it. I think that more could have been done because I noticed that you were doing more about answering questions than actually telling a story. So if you found the top 10 best-selling products, okay, how does it translate or relate to the previous KPI or the next 2 or 3 KPIs as well, so that I can make more business sense, right, about the project that you're putting together. Okay, so that's pretty good as well. Let's look at the next part. This is in SQL, and I can tell because of the ending, so I said it's .pdf.sql, so I can tell what exactly I'm going to be looking at. So we have this, and this is SQL code, right? And I like the code I'm seeing. Looks pretty clean with the capitalization in the right part and whatnot. What it doesn't have is comments, right? Because you see, not every single person will be going through your portfolio problem statement for the kind of look at your SQL code. You may just want to see your SQL code, right? So having those comments in there is going to potentially help to have people see what they want to see at a quick glance, right? You don't want someone to be going through all of this one by one. Okay, so keep that in mind. We already saw the readme, so you just give that and look at Tableau projects dashboard. Okay, so this in particular is it's more like, okay, this is some sort of code, but then for your Tableau visualization, if I understand correctly. I sent some sort of Tableau in here, so okay, that's fine. Okay, it's fine. It's okay. And that's quite a lot, right? Okay, I have no issue with this, right? But the question I have is, would someone be willing to go through all of these things, right? If I do not have, for instance, if I do not have any idea about what exactly Tableau is, and like I can hear Tableau in a code form, how do you communicate that in the first place, right? So first of all, I said earlier on, I'm going to write tweets again, okay, that if you're going to put together a portfolio and it's going to be on GitHub, you should be very sure that person going to gather a portfolio on your GitHub can navigate GitHub, else you're going to throw them off, right? And then the final one that we have here is a screenshot, I believe, of your Tableau dashboard, which is fine, right? What I'll suggest is I can remove the data labels here. I mean, you can remove, data, I said data labels. What I was trying to say, the axis titles, right? They have to make it taken off, also makes your work, makes it more cluttered, right? And also, I think that this dashboard can be improved, right? This could have been put in a chart form, so for this as well, unless I'm not sure of the story, right? So I'm just looking at this based on the KPIs that you have answered, but how can you go the extra mile? How can you give that extra edge? Because to be honest, anybody who has an Excel document can do like this without even a Tableau. They can just visualize, but what is the story behind it? That is your job, to be able to tell the story behind it and then make that business impact, right? So this is all I have, and I think I'm okay with particular portfolio as well. So if I was to rank this, I'd give it a 5 out of 10, right? For this particular portfolio, I think it can be improved massively, right? I think it can be improved, and what can help is if you are able to keep everything in one or two places, right? And well, once again, it should be a place where anybody without any technical knowledge can still be able to navigate very easily. Okay. So thank you very much, Ofenche Molali, for submitting a portfolio as well. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Um, let me be sure I'm looking at the right document. Okay, it's the right thing. So this is the description about the project, which I think was poorly done and can be improved, right? Your description should always include something like the goal of the project, summarize goal of the project, and also your documentation. What exactly do you do from step A to step B to achieve step C? That is very, very important. Okay. And then we also have some other parts. Okay, so this is actually showing us the code part. Is it the code part? Okay, the code part of whatever you have put together here. What I would have greatly preferred as you add is that you also have some sorts of comments, right, attached to the document, so that it's also something like this particular SQL code. Okay, I understand SQL, so I would get it, but what is the goal here? Can you give us a breakdown of what exactly you are doing here so I can understand you and help with the data? You know, document your stuff. Okay, document your stuff. And this is the link that you sent me. This is all I can view here. And I think that even though you have the code written out here, okay, how you can go and actually step to documentation is also by adding comments to your code, right? So they can see, or anyone who can't look at it can see what like you're working on, where you started and where you're going to end. Okay. Remember, this is very, very important for your data journey, right? So yeah, offenses Molale's part is pretty short because all what I'm about in this video is probably captured in the first 4 portfolio videos. Offense Molale's part of this video is going to be probably short because I have spoken about some of the key, most important parts that are needed in the portfolio, and I think listening to the video from that part now will give you the idea on how to make a portfolio better. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next video where I share with you how to build a portfolio from scratch using Wix.com and or GitHub. See you in the next one. Bye for now. 12:37, no wonder.